I never thought I'd tell this story publicly, mostly because every time I think about it, something inside me twists in a way I don't fully understand. It's like the kind of pain that doesn't fade. It just gets quieter, hiding in the background until something sharp brings it back. And honestly, I didn't expect that sharp thing to be a simple family group photo, because that was the moment everything boiled over. That single photo, just one stupid picture, ended up ripping the truth straight out of me. I wasn't part of my own family anymore. Not really. Not in the ways that matter. Not in the ways they made sure my brother was. But let me start where this actually begins, because if I don't explain the whole thing, none of it will make sense. I'm the older brother, 2 years older than Nate. Growing up, our house wasn't rich or fancy or anything like that. It was messy, chaotic, loud, and full of half-finished things. Mom started projects she never completed. Dad fixed things only after they broke twice. Our meals were often leftovers from leftovers. But through all of that, we were a family. Or at least I thought we were. I was the responsible one. Not because I wanted to be, but because someone had to be. Mom had her bad days, lots of them. Dad always had work, even when he didn't. And Nate was the golden child before anyone even knew what that meant. He was always the center of everything. Cute, funny, dramatic, loud. Everyone loved him instantly. Relatives would actually forget my name while fawning over him. Teachers let him get away with things they'd yell at me for doing once. Neighbors thought he was charming, even when he broke their stuff. Me? I was the kid who blended into the wall. I didn't cause trouble, didn't cry, didn't complain. I learned early that being quiet made life easier for everyone. But the thing about being invisible is that after a while, you forget what it feels like to be seen. And Nate, he didn't help with that. By the time we were teenagers, the favoritism wasn't subtle anymore. Nate got a new phone because he needed it for school. Even though we literally used the same apps and assignments, I got whatever was repaired or glued together. Nate got less chores because he's overwhelmed. I got more because you're older, you understand. And anytime Nate messed up, it was my fault somehow. Didn't matter what happened, I should have been watching him. I should have stopped it. I should have known better. The unfairness didn't break me. What broke me was how normal it all felt. It was like everyone silently agreed that my brother's comfort mattered more than my entire existence. I don't think Nate did it maliciously back then. He was just used to being the center. The sun doesn't apologize for shining. People just shield their eyes. But when he got older, things changed. He learned how powerful attention was, and how easily he could control it. Our relationship shifted from brothers who bicker to brothers who live in different worlds. Every time I did something good, sports, music, grades, Nate had to somehow one-up it. If I got an A, he suddenly miraculously needed help, and Mom celebrated him for trying so hard. If I beat my personal record at track, Nate twisted his ankle and everyone fussed over him so much that my meet didn't even get mentioned. It wasn't competition anymore. It was erasure. But none of that compared to what happened my senior year. I'd been working for months, literal months, on creating a portfolio for a creative program I dreamed of since middle school. I wrote, painted, filmed, edited. I stayed up late. I skipped hanging out with people. I put everything into it. And the week before my submission was due, Nate accidentally spilled soda all over my laptop. Destroyed everything. Years of work. Months of grind. Gone in seconds. He cried. Mom comforted him. Dad said, "It's just bad luck. Don't be mad at your brother." And me? I just stood there holding a dripping, ruined laptop while my entire future melted out onto the carpet. That was the first moment I realized Nate knew exactly what he was doing. And he also knew exactly how to get away with it. I rebuilt the portfolio from scratch. Didn't sleep for 3 days. Didn't eat more than a cereal bar. Mom never asked if I needed help. Dad didn't say a word. Nate walked around the house like nothing happened, humming, joking, living freely. I still got accepted into the program, but I never forgot how little anyone cared about the damage he caused. I thought leaving for college would fix everything. I thought distance would finally let me become someone separate from him. Someone who didn't have to compete for basic recognition. Someone who could be enough. And for a while it was better. I made friends. People actually noticed when I walked into a room. I wasn't the background character anymore. Nobody knew Nate, and that felt like sunlight after living underground. But families have a way of pulling you back into old roles. And when I moved back home after graduating, temporarily while job hunting, I stepped straight into the same shadows I thought I'd escaped. Nate was 20 by then, still living at home, still working part-time at a job he somehow always got praise for, still being the miracle son who could do no wrong. He had taken over my old room, my posters, my shelves, my desk, my space. He said, "You're not gonna need it anymore. You're moving out soon anyway." Mom and Dad agreed, and instead of a room, I got the storage space downstairs that still smelled like mildew no matter how much Febreze I sprayed. But I told myself it was temporary. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I didn't care anymore. Then came the photo, the one that changed everything. We were having dinner. Takeout because nobody cooks on weekends, and Mom said she wanted a new family picture for the living room. The old one was from when Nate and I were kids. Everyone agreed. It sounded harmless. We stood in the backyard, the sun low and warm. Dad set up the tripod. Mom fixed her hair. Nate adjusted his shirt. I stood where Dad told me to stand. Dad set the timer. Ran into position. Smile. Flash. Done. Later that night, I came upstairs to grab water and saw Mom on the couch editing the photo. She was smiling. Not at the photo, at Nate. At how he looked. At how grown up and handsome he is now. She didn't say anything about me. Not even a quick, "You look nice too." The kind of thing parents just say automatically. But whatever. I let it go. I went to bed. The next morning, I walked into the living room and froze so hard it felt like my body locked up. There on the wall, beautiful frame, brand new, hanging in the center, was the family picture. Except I wasn't in it. I wasn't photoshopped badly. I wasn't cropped awkwardly. I wasn't behind anything. I was completely removed, like I'd never been there. Mom replaced me with a potted plant. A fucking plant. Nate, Mom, Dad, and a fern. I don't know how long I stood there staring at it. My chest felt tight. My throat felt full. My hands went numb. I'd always known they favored him. But this wasn't favoritism. This was deletion. I asked Mom about it later, trying to keep my voice steady. I said, "Why did you take me out of the picture?" She looked confused at first. Genuinely. Then she said the sentence that snapped something deep inside me. "Oh, sweetheart, it just looked cleaner that way. Nate was centered already, and you were kind of off to the side. It didn't fit the aesthetic. Didn't fit the aesthetic. Didn't fit." As if I was a smudge on their perfect little portrait of a family that didn't include me. Nate was sitting right there. He didn't say anything. He just smirked like he'd won something. That was when the anger hit. Not loud, not explosive, but cold and controlled. The kind of anger that's been building for years and finally finds one crack big enough to escape. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just said, "Okay." Walked away. Went to my room and started packing. They barely noticed I was gone for hours. But that isn't even the worst part. Because 2 days after I left, Mom sent a text in the family group chat. A picture of a new photo frame. Nate and my parents smiling, arms around each other. Caption, "Finally got our perfect family picture heart suit." That was when I realized something I'd been avoiding for a long time. My brother didn't just replace me. He was actively trying to erase me. And my parents were letting him. But the real story, the part that explains why he did it, what happened after, and how everything eventually exploded, comes next. When I left the house that day, I told myself I wasn't really leaving. I said I just needed air. I said I needed to think. I said I'd come back after I cooled off. But the truth is, by the time I reached the end of the street, I knew something was over. Something that should have broken years ago but held on because I kept holding it together. I didn't pack much. Just some clothes, a couple notebooks, my laptop, and the few things that were actually mine. It all fit in 2 duffel bags. That's how you know you were never meant to stay somewhere. When your whole life fits into bags you can carry alone. I didn't book a hotel or call a friend. I drove until I couldn't anymore and parked near the old pier we used to visit when I was a kid. I sat there in my car for a long time, listening to the waves hit wood, trying to figure out how you're supposed to breathe when your family decides you don't belong to them. By the time I checked my phone again, I saw over 50 missed messages. Not from my parents, of course, but from Nate. He was spamming me with, "And bro, where are you, LOL? And mom's freaking out, you better not make this a big deal." Not a big deal. I got erased from the family photo, replaced by a plant, and that was not a big deal. I didn't reply. I didn't say a word. I shut my phone off and sat there until the sun started rising and people came out for morning walks. I drove away before anyone could see me crying. Eventually, by evening, I reached my friend Michael's place. He was one of those people who could see through me in 2 seconds, and as soon as he opened the door, he said, "Dude, what happened?" I didn't want to dump everything on him, so I lied and said my house was being fumigated. He didn't believe me, but he didn't push. He gave me the spare room and told me I could stay as long as I needed. I slept for the first time in 2 days. When I woke up, I saw something that made my stomach sink. 23 missed calls. 15 messages. All from my parents. Not once when I was at home doing everything for them. Not when I quietly carried every responsibility. Not when I held my own life together. But the second I left, suddenly I mattered. The messages were the same tired lines. "Come home. We're worried. You're being dramatic. Let's talk when you calm down. Family sticks together. Family sticks together. Unless it's me, apparently." I didn't respond. But then Nate texted individually. "Can you stop being selfish? Mom was crying last night and it's all because of you. You know how sensitive she is." Sensitive. The woman who removed her son from a photo because he ruined the aesthetic. I blocked him, and that should have been the end. I should have moved on. I should have found a job, saved money, built my own life away from their chaos. But trauma clings to you like static. You brush it off and it comes right back. A week passed. Then 2. I didn't hear a thing from them. Not a call. Not a text. Not a simple "hope you're okay." The silence said everything. And then, just when I started to accept it, my cousin Jenna called. Not a text. Not a voice note. A full-on call. She never calls me unless something is seriously wrong. When I picked up, she didn't even say hello. She just said, "You need to see what your brother posted." My stomach dropped. I opened social media and there it was. A picture of my parents and Nate in front of the same frame with the plant. Captioned, "Family. The people who are always there for you, red heart." 2,000 likes. Dozens of comments praising what a beautiful family. And "you guys look perfect." And "this is goals." I wasn't in a single photo on any of their accounts anymore. Not just the new ones, old ones too. Pictures where I was smiling, holding Nate when he was a baby, birthdays, holidays. All gone. Deleted. Scrubbed. As if my presence was some stain they needed to wash out. My chest tightened so hard I thought I was having a panic attack. Jenna said quietly, "I'm sorry. I don't know why they're doing this to you." I didn't answer because I didn't know either. But I needed to understand. I needed closure. I needed something, anything, that would explain why my own brother wanted me erased. So I did something stupid. I went back. Not to move back in. Not to forgive them. But to get answers. When I walked into the driveway, Nate's car was parked perfectly in the middle, like a prize displayed on a shelf. The same car my parents helped him buy. The one they said they couldn't afford when I asked for help with tuition. I knocked on the door. Dad opened it and froze like he'd seen a ghost. And the first thing out of his mouth wasn't, "Are you okay?" or "We missed you." It was, "You should have called before coming." My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. Mom came out next. Her eyes flicked over me like she was inspecting something she didn't order but now had to deal with. She said, "You look tired." Not concerned, just observing. Then Nate walked in from the living room, smirking like he owned the place. He leaned against the wall with that casual confidence he always had, the one that came from never facing consequences. "Well, look who decided to show up," he said. I asked them all one question. "Why did you erase me from the picture?" Mom blinked. "Honey, it wasn't that serious." Dad added, "It's just a photo." And Nate shrugged. "You're making it weird, man." I felt something hot and sharp crawl up my spine. All I could manage was, "Why wasn't I good enough for you?" Dad sighed like I was inconveniencing him. "Don't be dramatic." My voice cracked. "You replaced me with a plant." Mom actually laughed. "It looked balanced." Balanced. That was the moment I realized they didn't want answers because they didn't think there was a problem. They genuinely believed nothing was wrong. Then Nate decided to make it worse. He stepped closer, smirk growing, and said, "You left. That's on you." Of course, we took new family pictures. "You moved out." I snapped. Not physically, not violently, but something in my expression must have shifted because Nate suddenly stopped grinning. I said, "I didn't move out. I escaped." Mom gasped dramatically, like I'd insulted her personally. "We have always loved you the same." I almost laughed. It was so absurd it didn't even hurt. "You love him," I said. "You tolerate me." Dad pointed at Nate. "He needs us more. And I don't." I shot back. "I was drowning in that house my whole life and none of you even noticed." Mom crossed her arms. "You've always been too sensitive."
No, y whispered.
"I've always been invisible." The room went dead silent. For the first time in his life, Nate didn't have anything to say. I walked past them, into the living room, and saw something that crushed me completely. On the shelf were multiple framed photos. Every picture had 3 people: Mom, Dad, Nate. Not one had me, not even the old ones. Mom had replaced them, all of them, every proof I ever existed in that home. I stared at them quietly and said, "I won't fight for a place you never planned on giving me." Mom looked away. Dad exhaled. Nate just stood there, eyes hardening like he'd won something. And I realized in that moment that they didn't erase me by accident. They erased me because they wanted the story where Nate was the only child worth showing. So I said the last words I would ever say in that house. "Enjoy your perfect family." Then I left. And they didn't follow me. Not that day. Not that week. Not ever. The truth is, losing your family isn't one big explosion. It's a long burn. And when the fire finally goes out, you just feel cold. But I rebuilt my life. I found a job, saved money, got a small apartment, and started therapy. I made friends who actually liked me, people who cared when I walked into a room, people who saw me, not just the space I took up. And one night, months later, I posted something on my private account. Not a rant, not a sob story. Just a caption under a picture of my new living room. Family is not who's related to you. It's who refuses to erase you. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't mention my brother. I didn't need to. That post got more support than anything I ever shared. Even now, my parents and Nate never reached out again. They created their perfect picture, and I guess I didn't fit the aesthetic. But I finally realized something important. Being erased by them made space for me to become someone I'm proud of. And honestly, I'd rather be alone than invisible. If you're reading this and you've ever felt like the outsider in your own home, you're not alone. And you're not wrong for wanting to be seen. People like us deserve a life filled with people who choose us. Every day. Not people who replace us with plants and call it balanced. And if you're still here listening, thank you. It means more than you know. If you enjoy stories like this, stick around and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The stranger who told me a secret about my family that shattered everything I knew. I always thought my life was boring. Not in a depressing, nothing ever happens to me kind of way, but more like everything just ran on autopilot. Same job, same morning routine, same group chats, same small apartment with the same furniture I'd been promising myself I'd replace for 3 years. Nothing big, nothing dramatic, nothing explosive. Right up until the day a complete stranger walked up to me and told me a secret about my family that detonated my entire reality like a landmine I didn't know I was standing on. Before that day, my routine was ridiculously predictable. I'd leave my apartment at 8:17 a.m. every morning, never 8:15 or 8:20, always 8:17, and walk the same route to the coffee shop across from the bus stop. I'd order the same vanilla cold brew, tip the same $2, stand at the same corner, and catch the 8:32 bus to work. People who didn't know me called it discipline. People who did know me called it obsessive. But to me, it was stability. Stability felt safe. Nothing unexpected. Nothing unpredictable. Nothing messy. So when that stranger walked toward me that morning, standing in the middle of my predictable little world, my first instinct was annoyance. She looked too direct, too purposeful, too intrusive, like she wasn't just walking in my direction, but walking for me. At first, I assumed she was going to ask for directions. It wouldn't have been the first time. I guess I look like someone who knows where everything is. But then she stopped right in front of me, close enough that I could smell the faint scent of old perfume. Something floral, something vintage, something I almost recognized. She stared at me with these sharp eyes that didn't match her soft voice when she said, "You look just like her." I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" She swallowed tightly, like she was working up courage. "You look exactly like your mother. My mother died when I was 11.
À car accident.
Tragic but clean, according to everyone who spoke about it. Like it was sad, but not suspicious. Heartbreaking, but not complicated. So hearing a random woman say that to me wasn't just weird. It was unsettling. It didn't fit into the box I'd put my mother's memory in. A safe, sealed box I didn't open often. I managed a polite, confused smile. "Do you know my mom?" Her eyes flicked sideways. She hesitated. Then she said something that made my stomach fall through the pavement. "I knew her," she whispered. "But I also know something about her that someone should have told you a long time ago." I froze. My coffee cup suddenly felt too light in my hand, like the air around us shifted. People brushed past on the sidewalk. Cars honked. Someone across the street yelled into their phone, but none of it felt real. Everything shrank to this woman's trembling voice and the way she kept glancing over her shoulder. I forced my voice to stay calm. "Who are you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she said, "Your mother didn't die the way they told you." The world tilted. My jaw tightened. What does that mean? She took a small step back, eyes scanning the street again, like she was waiting for someone to jump out. "I shouldn't tell you this here. It's not safe." My heart started pounding. "What's not safe? What are you talking about?" Her eyes locked onto mine. Fearful, determined, broken all at once. "Please, just meet me tonight. Same spot after 10. I'll explain everything." "No," I said, stepping forward. "Explain now." She shook her head. "I can't. Her voice cracked. "This involves people who won't hesitate to shut me up if they knew I talked to you." A cold sweat slid down my spine. "Why me?" I whispered. "Because you're the only person she'd trust with the truth," she said. "And I'm out of time." Then she turned and walked away fast, weaving through the crowd before I could ask anything else. I stood there frozen, coffee melting in my hand, watching her disappear into the mass of morning commuters. My breathing was shallow. My heart was punching my chest from the inside. My brain was scrambling for something logical, something rational, something that made this make sense. But none of it did. And the worst part? She didn't say my mother didn't die. She said she didn't die the way they told me. Meaning what? Someone lied? Someone hid something? Someone covered something up? The thought made me feel physically sick. At work, I couldn't focus. I stared at my screen for hours as emails piled up. Numbers blurred. Conversations drifted around me like static. Every tiny detail of the morning played on repeat in my head. Her eyes, her voice, the way she said, "not safe." The way she said, "Your mother didn't die the way they told you." By lunchtime, I was shaking. By 3 p.m., I was pacing in the break room. By 4 p.m., I almost convinced myself she was crazy. By 5 p.m., I almost convinced myself not to go. By 6 p.m., I was Googling her face, searching old newspaper archives, and deep-diving articles about my mother's accident. By 7 p.m., I remembered something I hadn't thought about in years: the missing necklace. My mother always wore one necklace, a thin silver chain with a small charm engraved with a date, her wedding anniversary. She wore it every day, never took it off, ever. I remember being a kid and tugging on it while she laughed and told me gently, "Careful, sweetheart. Mommy's sentimental." After she died, they gave me her ring, her purse, her old coat, things from the hospital, but not her necklace. I asked my father once. He said, "It probably broke in the crash." But I remembered her body when they let me see her one last time. Bruised, still, peaceful in a way she didn't deserve. But her neck was bare. Had someone taken it? Why? And why did I only start questioning that now? At 9 p.m., I told myself I wasn't going. At 9:30 p.m., I grabbed my keys. At 10:02 p.m., I was back at the corner where the stranger had approached me. The street was quieter now. The coffee shop was closed. The neon signs were humming, and the shadows stretched long across the pavement. I kept checking over my shoulder, scanning faces, searching for her. Then I saw her standing under the street lamp. She looked even more nervous than earlier. Her hands kept wringing together, her shoulders tense. I stepped closer. "I'm here," she exhaled in relief. "Thank God." "Start talking," I said. She nodded slowly. "Okay, but first I need you to understand something. What I'm about to tell you, it's going to change how you see your family forever." My heart lodged in my throat. "Tell me," I whispered. She closed her eyes, gathered courage, then looked straight at me. "Your mother didn't die in an accident," she said. "She was running from someone." My blood went icy. "What? Who?" Her voice shook. "Someone very close to you." A chill crawled up my spine. "Who exactly?" She opened her mouth to answer, then a car engine roared. A black SUV turned the corner too fast, headlights blinding white. It shot forward with terrifying speed, straight toward us. The woman's eyes widened in pure horror. "Run!" I didn't move. I was frozen, staring at the SUV barreling toward us, tires screeching, grille gleaming in the streetlight. She shoved me so hard I fell onto the sidewalk. The SUV slammed to a stop inches from her, and before I could get up, 2 men jumped out. I scrambled back to my feet, my ears ringing. One of the men grabbed the woman by the arm. She screamed, "Go! Go now! They can't know you know!" The second man slammed a hand over her mouth. My heart exploded in panic. "Hey, let her go!" One of the men turned and looked directly at me. No words, no emotion, just a warning. Something dark and sharp filled his stare. Something that told me I was next. Before I could step forward, before I could shout, before I could even breathe, they shoved the woman into the SUV. The door slammed shut, the tires screeched, and the SUV tore down the street and vanished. I stood there in the middle of the empty road, chest heaving, pulse in my throat, entire body shaking uncontrollably. The stranger was gone, kidnapped, in front of me, because she tried to tell me something about my mother. And the last thing she said, the thing I will hear in nightmares for the rest of my life, was, "They can't know you know," which meant they thought she told me everything. But she didn't. She only told me one thing. One horrible, terrifying, soul-breaking thing. Someone close to me killed my mother. And they were willing to do anything, to keep me from finding out who. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, all I could picture was Julia standing there in the hallway, her face frozen in that strange mixture of confusion, regret, and something else I couldn't identify. And then there was Mark, looking like he'd been caught stealing instead of looking like a partner who should have been running toward his girlfriend instead of recoiling like he'd seen a ghost. And I hated that the part that kept replaying wasn't even the shouting. It was that 1 second when Julia reached out like she wanted to hug me, and I flinched away like she was on fire. It messed with my head in a way I didn't expect. I knew I wasn't the one who ruined the relationship. I knew I didn't do anything wrong. But when you've spent your whole life making yourself small so other people stay comfortable, suddenly being the storm in the room feels wrong, even if it's justified. By morning, I felt like my body was full of static electricity. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't even cry properly. My emotions kept stalling out halfway, like my brain couldn't finish processing anything without glitching. And then the messages started. First from Mark, predictably. "Mark, can we talk when you have time?" I think there was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. I actually laughed. It wasn't a healthy laugh. It was the kind of laugh that sounds like it's being dragged across gravel. Then a second one from him. "Mark, I know it looked bad, but she's your sister. Let's all talk once everything calms down. Once everything calms down." As if this was a scheduling conflict or a minor argument about who left dishes in the sink. I didn't reply. Then Julia texted. "Julia, I didn't mean to make everything worse. I shouldn't have gone there like that. I'm sorry you felt blindsided. I love you. Please talk to me when you're ready. Not, I'm sorry I did something that hurt you. Not, I'm sorry I crossed a line. Not, I'm sorry I spoke to your partner behind your back in a way that made him hide it from you. Just, I'm sorry you felt something." That's the kind of apology that sounds like kindness if you're not paying attention, but it's actually just verbal static. I stared at the screen for maybe an hour before putting the phone face down on my bed. My stomach kept flipping like there was a stone rolling around in it. I didn't want to talk to either of them. But I also hated sitting in silence, because silence is when your brain starts inventing explanations and justifications for the people who hurt you. That's what I always did for Julia. That's what I always did for everyone. So I put on shoes and left my apartment before I could overthink it. I didn't know where I was going at first. I just walked until the air felt sharp in my lungs and the noise of cars faded into a steady hum. Eventually, I ended up at the lake. There's a bench there that I always used when my head got messy growing up. My mom used to sit there with me on weekends and tell me the water listens better than people. I never really believed her, but the bench still felt familiar enough to slow my pulse a little. I sat there for maybe half an hour before I realized someone was standing a few feet away from me. I knew it was Julia before I looked up. She always walked like the ground belonged to her, light but intentional. Like each step meant something. I kept my gaze on the water. She sat down slowly, leaving more distance than usual between us. That alone told me she understood more than her text suggested. We didn't speak at first. Just the sound of waves tapping the rocks and the wind cutting through the trees. I didn't look at her, but I could feel her fidgeting, like she was trying to physically shake her words loose from wherever she kept them pinned down. Finally, she exhaled. "I didn't go there to hurt you." My jaw clenched. She continued, "I went because I thought Mark was pushing you away again and you weren't seeing it. You talked to him behind my back," I said, still staring at the water. "Yes," she admitted instantly, which surprised me. I did, and that was wrong. I should have talked to you first. But you didn't, I said. You went to him. You believed his version before you asked me for mine. Silence. Then she whispered, I've always been bad at choosing sides. That's not choosing sides, I said. That's choosing the easiest person to talk to. That hit her. I saw her shoulders slump even though I wasn't looking directly at her. I know I've overstepped before, she said, her voice quieter. And I know I've made you feel like I'm trying to run your life, but that wasn't what this was. I swear I thought I was helping. By telling my partner things you should have told me? She flinched, actually flinched, and a part of me softened for just a second. But I couldn't let that softness get loud enough to excuse everything. She twisted her hands in her lap like she didn't know where to put them. I saw him last week, and he told me he was worried you were pulling away from him. I didn't think it was serious. I thought maybe you'd had a small fight or something, but he seemed really lost. So I checked in with him again to make sure he was okay. Why? I said. Why him? Because he reached out, she said simply. And I thought if he was hurting, it meant you were hurting. I didn't have an answer for that. It wasn't a malicious explanation. It was just misguided. Misguided in a way that still cut deep. I didn't know he wasn't telling you we talked, she added softly. I assumed he did. I turned my head then, finally meeting her eyes. That assumption, I said, is the whole problem. She nodded, her eyes filling but not spilling. I know. Another quiet moment. Then she said something that cracked something open in me. You've always thought you were the quiet one in the family, but you're not. You're the one whose absence is loudest. I was scared I was losing you. I didn't expect that. Not even a little. She wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. When you faded out after the last fight you had with him, it felt like losing you in pieces. I didn't want that to happen again. My chest felt tight. I didn't want to forgive her right then, but I also didn't want to stay angry. Anger feels powerful, but it keeps you standing in the same spot forever. So I told the truth. You didn't lose me. You just didn't ask where I went. Her lip trembled, and she nodded. We sat like that for a long time. Eventually she said, I'll back off. Completely if that's what you want. But please don't shut me out. Not completely. I didn't promise anything. I wasn't ready. But I didn't walk away either. And for us, that counted as progress. By the time I got home, Mark was waiting outside my building. Of course he was. He always acted like showing up unannounced counted as effort instead of intrusion. He jogged up when he saw me. Thank God. I've been trying to call. I saw. Can we talk? Please. Talking isn't the problem, I said as I walked past him toward the door. Secrets are. He followed me inside, and we ended up in my living room. Him standing, me sitting, the distance between us thicker than air. I didn't lie, he started. You omitted, I corrected. On purpose. He exhaled sharply. I didn't want you to think something was going on. You mean you didn't want me to think something was going on because you knew how it looked? He ran a hand through his hair. I didn't flirt with her. I didn't do anything shady. I didn't say you did, I replied. But you hid something important. Because I didn't want to make things worse. It made things worse. He froze. I watched the realization sink in. I handled it wrong, he said after a moment. I know that. But I didn't think her checking in on me was a big deal. I didn't know she was going to show up at your apartment like that. That's not an excuse. I know, he repeated. I know. I messed up. He sat on the coffee table directly across from me, close enough that I could feel the warmth from his hands even though he wasn't touching me. I love you, he said, and I don't want to lose you over miscommunication. It wasn't miscommunication, I said quietly. It was a choice. His jaw tightened, but not in anger, in guilt. He reached out like he wanted to take my hand, but he stopped midair. He let it fall. I'll do whatever you need, he said. Anything. If you want therapy, I'll go. If you want space, I'll give it. If you want full transparency, I'll do it. And if I want honesty the first time? I asked. He swallowed. Then I learned from this. I leaned back, exhausted. My brain was tired. My heart was tired. The part of me that wanted to give people endless chances was tired. I'm not deciding anything today, I said. That's okay. And I don't want you talking to my sister without me knowing. Ever. Of course, he said immediately. I won't. And I don't want you telling her things you won't tell me. I won't. And if something feels weird, or uncomfortable, or off, you tell me. I promise. We stayed like that for a while. Not reconciled. Not broken. Just two people standing at the edge of something and deciding whether it was worth crossing. Eventually, he left. The apartment felt different once he was gone. Not empty, just quieter in a way that felt temporary instead of permanent. And for the first time in days, I didn't feel like my insides were being pulled in opposite directions. I lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The hallway confrontation, the lake conversation, the heavy silence between all the words none of us had said sooner. And then the strangest thought hit me. Maybe this wasn't about betrayal. Maybe it was about boundaries. About learning how to draw them, how to reinforce them, how to stop apologizing for needing them. Because for the first time, I didn't shrink to make someone else comfortable. I didn't soften what hurt me. I didn't swallow my own discomfort just to keep the peace. And maybe that was the first real step towards something healthier, whether it was with Mark or without him. Whether it was between me and Julia or something entirely new. I didn't know where we would end up. But for once, I wasn't scared of the uncertainty. And honestly, I think the people who stay through your boundaries are the ones worth keeping. And the ones who leave, they were never really yours. I'm learning that now. And if you've ever been the quiet one, the forgiving one, the one who bends until something inside you snaps, learn it with me. And if you're still here with me at this point in the story, you might as well stick around for the next one. Because I promise you it's only getting deeper from here, so don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. I never expected a single voicemail to flip my entire life upside down, but that's exactly what happened 3 weeks ago. I was sitting at my tiny kitchen counter, half awake, half alive, eating cereal straight from the box because my sink was full of dishes I refused to wash on principle at that point. It had been one of those weeks where your body feels like it's made of wet concrete and every small task seems to require a permission slip from your brain. Then my phone buzzed. One unheard voicemail from my dad, which was weird because my dad hates phones. He prefers knocking on people's doors unannounced at inconvenient hours or leaving long handwritten notes taped to refrigerators. He said texting was cold and unfeeling, and voicemail was for emergencies only. So when I saw his name pop up, my stomach tightened. I pressed play. His voice came through shaky, like he'd gone on a long walk in cold wind. Call me back, kiddo. Your uncle messed up again. Big time. I froze. Because when my dad says messed up, he never means something normal like forgetting a birthday or getting a speeding ticket. He means something catastrophic, something ridiculous, something that would have gone viral on the internet if phones had been there to witness it. My Uncle Darren was a walking disaster wrapped in denim and bad decisions. Growing up, I thought he was cool. He was the kind of adult who let us eat ice cream for breakfast and ride in the back of his pickup truck like it was a theme park ride. But as I got older, I realized his life was a pile of dominoes always a breath away from collapsing. Still, I hadn't heard about any major chaos from him in a while. So I called my dad back. He answered on the first ring. You sitting down? He asked.
No. Sit.
That bad? He sighed. Your uncle isn't in the hospital or anything. Well, that's a start. But he is living with me now. I blinked. Wait, what? Since when? Since yesterday. Why didn't you tell me yesterday? Because I hoped it would magically resolve itself by sunrise. And did it?
No.
It has gotten worse. I rubbed my forehead. Okay, explain. He inhaled deeply, which wasn't a good sign. He broke up with Linda. Dad. They broke up every other month. This time she threw his stuff into the yard. She's done that before too. Then she set it on fire. Okay, that is new. And then she called the cops. For what? For trespassing. He lived there. She says he didn't officially. Apparently she took him off the lease 2 months ago. I closed my eyes. Oh my God. So he had nowhere to go, my dad said. And I wasn't going to let him sleep in his truck. Is the truck functional? It explodes if you turn left too hard. Of course it does. But that isn't the biggest problem, he said. The biggest problem is that he's brought baggage. I frowned. Baggage like emotional baggage or literal bags? Both, he said. Mostly the literal one. Or rather, ones. How many bags? 11. What could he possibly own that fits into 11 bags? That's the thing, my dad whispered. They aren't his. Oh no, I muttered. Please do not tell me. They belong to a woman. Of course they did. Do I want to know her name? I asked. No, he said immediately. That bad. That complicated. And where is this woman? On my couch, he said miserably. I nearly dropped the phone. Dad, you have a stranger living in your house. She's not a stranger. To him, he said. To me, she is a stranger. You let a random woman into your home? She wasn't random. She was crying. Dad. And he said she had nowhere else to go. Dad. And then she fell asleep for 13 hours. Dad. Don't shout. My ears are sensitive. Do you even know why she's with him? I do not, he admitted. And I am afraid to ask. I pinched the bridge of my nose. So let me get this straight. Uncle Darren is now living with you. A woman whose name you don't know is also living with you. 11 bags belonging to her are taking over your house. And you called me why? Because, he said, and I could hear the desperation dripping through the phone. I need you to come talk to him.
No.
Yes.
No.
You're the only one he listens to. That is not true, I said. He listens to his mechanic. His mechanic is in jail. Still, that reinforces my point. He sighed again, one of those heavy sighs that parents use when they're about to guilt-trip you without looking like they're guilt-tripping you. I'm tired, he said quietly. Your uncle is trying, but he's dragging chaos behind him like it's a dog on a leash. And this woman, I don't know what to make of her. She's polite. She's calm. She folds the blankets on the couch when she wakes up. But I don't know who she is or how long she plans to stay. You could ask her, I said. I tried. And she cried. I rubbed my temples. Dad, I have work. I have a life. You also have a father who fed you for 18 years. There it is, I muttered. And a father who did not complain when you destroyed my garage door trying to learn manual driving. I was 17. And a father who let you come home at 2 a.m. for 2 months straight when you were going through that breakup. Okay, fine I grond. I get it. Emotional blackmail successful. I don't like that word, he said. I prefer persuasive reminiscing. Send me the address. You know my address, right? I forgot. It's been a while. Too long. Don't start. I'm not starting. You're starting. There was a pause. Then he said, almost too quietly, I just don't want to handle this alone. That was the line that did it. Because my dad never admits he needs help. Not once. Not ever. He is the type of man who tries to fix broken furniture with tape instead of asking anyone for a screwdriver. If he was asking now, it meant he was drowning. So I told him I'd be there in 2 hours. His street looked exactly the same as it always did. Rows of quiet houses with peeling paint and overgrown hedges. The kind of neighborhood where people wave to each other even if they don't remember each other's names. I parked outside and immediately spotted the 11 bags my dad had mentioned. They were stacked on the porch like oversized puzzle pieces that didn't fit together. All different colors and sizes. None of them zipped properly. One had a leopard print scarf hanging out of it. Another had a broken zipper held together by what looked like bobby pins. I stepped inside without knocking. My dad was pacing the living room. Darren was sitting at the dining table drinking orange juice out of a measuring cup. And the woman was nowhere to be seen. My dad looked up like he'd been waiting for rescue personnel. "Oh, thank God," he breathed. Darren stood and opened his arms like we were in a soap opera. "Look who showed up. My favorite niece. I'm your only niece, which makes you the favorite." He pulled me into a hug that smelled like gasoline and cinnamon gum. Then I sat across from him. "Okay, explain the woman." He scratched his beard. "Well, she's, My dad stepped in. "Her name is Mia." "So you did ask," I said. "I asked once, before the crying began." "What's her relationship to you?" I asked Darren. He winced. "That's complicated." "Define complicated." "Well, I was dating her." My eyebrows shot up. "When?" "For a week." I blinked. "You moved a woman into Dad's house after dating her for 1 week?" My dad pointed dramatically. "Thank you. I didn't move her in," Darren protested. "She followed." "Followed," I repeated. "Like a duckling?"
No.
"Like someone who didn't have anywhere else to go." "Why doesn't she have anywhere to go?" "She said her ex kicked her out." I frowned. "And you believed her?" He shrugged helplessly. "She had the bags." "That doesn't mean." "She cried." My dad raised a hand. "She cries often." "How often?" I asked. When asked simple questions. I looked at the stairs. "Where is she now?" "In your old room," my dad said. "Why?" "She said the couch hurt her back," he explained defensively. "What was I supposed to do? Tell her to sleep on the floor?" "Yes," I said. "No," my dad said at the same time. We stared at each other. Then the floor creaked. Mia stepped into view at the bottom of the staircase. I went still. She wasn't what I expected. She was small. Not petite, but small in presence, like she was trying to fold herself into the smallest version of herself to take up less space. Her hair was messy but clean, her clothes oversized but washed, and her expression careful in a way that made me want to blink slowly, like approaching a scared animal. "Hi," she whispered. Her voice was so soft it barely existed. I'm sorry if I'm causing trouble." "You're not causing trouble," my dad said immediately. "Yes, she is," I muttered. Her eyes flicked to me, and I felt a weird twist in my chest. Not pity, not annoyance, something else. Something like recognition, because I knew that look. I'd worn that look. The look of someone who's been yelled at one too many times. Someone who apologizes before they breathe. Someone who waits for a reaction instead of expecting kindness. It hit me harder than I expected. She wrung her hands together. "I can leave if you want." Darren stood so fast his chair screeched.
No.
"You stay. You're safe here." Safe. The word landed in the room like a stone. I looked between them, and that was when I noticed the bruise. Barely there, faded yellow and green, but visible on her forearm when her sleeve shifted. My stomach dropped. She saw me looking and tugged her sleeve down instantly. I didn't say anything. Not yet. But everything inside me sharpened. Because suddenly this wasn't just about Darren being clueless. This wasn't about my dad being too soft. This wasn't about 11 bags or crying or broken leases. Something dangerous was tangled in this now. Something with teeth. And I was right in the middle of it. Before anyone could say another word, someone knocked on the front door. Loud.
Urgent.
Not friendly. 3 sharp bangs. My dad stiffened. Darren froze. Mia went pale. I stepped toward the door slowly. "Who is that?" I asked. No one answered. Then the knocking turned into pounding, and a man's voice cut through the door. "I know she's in there." Mia's face drained of color, and all at once everything made sense. This wasn't just a woman with nowhere to go. This was a woman hiding, and whoever she was hiding from had found her. I didn't open the door immediately. Something about the voice on the other side hit every alarm inside me. It wasn't just anger. It was the kind of fury that comes from entitlement, from someone who believes the world belongs to them and everyone else is trespassing on their property. Mia was shaking. Her fingers curled tightly into the hem of her baggy shirt, and she backed toward the wall like she had rehearsed it, like she knew exactly how to make herself small and invisible. Darren stepped in front of her automatically. Not bravely, not heroically, instinctively. Even he understood something was wrong. My dad whispered, "Do not open that door." But the pounding continued, heavier and angrier. "You think I'm stupid?" the man outside yelled. "I saw her damn car." "She doesn't have a car," Darren whispered. "She doesn't anymore," I corrected. "She walked here yesterday." The pounding stopped suddenly. Then a shadow shifted under the door. Someone crouching. Someone listening. And then a low voice, quieter but sharper. "Mia, open the door. Now." Her breath hitched. "Who is he?" I asked quietly. She shook her head. I can't." "Who is he?" She swallowed hard. "My ex." I glanced at the bruise on her arm again. The way she flinched when anyone raised their voice. The 11 bags stuffed with clothes. The crying. The fear. "Did he do that?" I asked. Her silence was the answer. My dad mouthed something that looked like, "Call the police." But before I could move, the doorknob rattled violently. "Open this door before I break it down." I stepped closer. "If you break it down, you'll go to jail." "Who the hell are you?" "Someone who doesn't open the door for threats." He slammed his open palm against the wood. "She's my girlfriend." "No," Mia whispered behind Darren. "I'm not." "And who said you could decide that?" the man roared. My jaw clenched so hard I felt my teeth vibrate. "Leave," I said, loud enough for everyone, including him, to hear. "Oh, I'm not leaving without her." "Then you're going to be disappointed." "Open the door," he snarled, "or I'll make you wish you had." I had a split second to decide. If I stayed silent, he would escalate. If I opened the door, he would explode. If I called the cops, he might run. If I did nothing, Mia would think she was alone again. So I chose the one thing I knew would work. I walked right up to the door and spoke through it as calmly as possible. "I'm recording everything right now, and if you continue threatening us, you'll be arrested. This house has 3 witnesses inside, and if you try to force your way in, it's a felony." Silence. Total silence. He wasn't expecting someone who pushed back. Then he growled, "You don't know who you're talking to." "You're right," I said, "and neither do the officers I'm calling right now." I pulled my phone out, turned the screen on loudly, and said, "Hello." Before I could finish, he punched the door so hard the wood cracked. Mia screamed. Darren stumbled back. My dad grabbed the closest heavy object, a lamp, as if that was going to do anything. I pressed my weight against the door because adrenaline was doing the thinking for me now. "Back away," I shouted. "The police are on their way." More footsteps outside. Heavy. Fast. Pacing. Like a caged animal. Then, "You think this is over?" he hissed. "You even breathe in her direction again and you'll regret it," I said. There was a pause. Then a long exhale, the kind that chills your spine because the anger doesn't disappear. It settles deeper. "You're all dead for this." He wasn't shouting now. He was promising. Then the footsteps faded. The car door slammed. Tires screeched. Silence. I didn't step away from the door for a full minute. None of us did. The house was frozen in a bubble of shock. Finally, my dad whispered, "Is he gone?" "For now," I said. Mia slid down the wall and pulled her knees to her chest, shaking uncontrollably. Darren went to her, but stopped halfway like he wasn't sure if touching her would make things worse. I crouched in front of her. "Mia," I said softly, "you're safe here." She looked up at me with eyes that looked like they'd been crying for months, not days. "No, I'm not," she whispered. "He won't stop. Not until he finds me. Then we make sure he can't." She shook her head. "You don't understand. He's not normal." "Neither am I," I said. "Trust me." She actually let out a tiny laugh, broken, but real. Then she inhaled shakily. "He's dangerous. He has friends. He knows where I work. He knows my passwords. He tracks everything. I tried to leave once before and her voice cracked. Darren gently placed a blanket around her shoulders. "You don't have to say it," but I wanted her to say it. Not because I needed the details, but because she needed to hear herself say the truth out loud. And she did. "He hurt me," she whispered. "He said no one else would want me, so I stayed. And when I finally tried to leave, he found me at a gas station and dragged me back home." My dad turned pale. Darren clenched his fists so tight his knuckles went white. I placed a hand on her knee. "You did the right thing leaving. He'll come back. Then let him," I said. "Because next time, he won't get anywhere near you." Her lip trembled. Why are you helping me?" I didn't answer right away, because I knew why. I had been her once. Not exactly, not physically, but emotionally. I dated someone who made me believe my voice was an inconvenience. Someone who twisted words. Someone who made me shrink. I saw myself in her. "Because you deserve peace," I finally said. "And I'm not letting anyone take that from you again." Just then, the porch creaked. We all froze. My dad mouthed, "Is he back?" I reached for my phone. But before anyone panicked again, someone knocked lightly. 3 soft taps. My dad peeked through the side window. Relief washed over him. "It's Officer Merritt, our neighbor. Thank God. He must have heard the shouting." We let him in, and he immediately scanned the cracked door, the frightened faces, and Mia wrapped in a blanket. "What happened?" he asked. I told him everything. Every bang, every threat, every word. He nodded slowly. "You need a restraining order. Today." "I can't afford one," Mia whispered. "It's free," he said, "and I'll help you fill it out." Her eyes filled again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was something else, something softer. "We'll also do a welfare check on him," Officer Merritt said. "He won't be coming back here tonight." "Good," I muttered. Officer Merritt stayed for an hour, wrote a report, gave us instructions, and left. After he was gone, the house fell quiet. My dad sat down heavily. "I can't take this chaos." "You won't have to," I said, "because we're not hiding anymore." Darren raised an eyebrow. "What are you planning?" I looked at Mia, then at the 11 bags stacked on the porch, then at the cracked door. "I'm planning," I said, "to end this, not violently, not illegally, but decisively, because people like her ex thrive when everyone else stays quiet. I wasn't going to be quiet, not anymore, and when the day finally came, the day he tried one more time to intimidate her, to scare her, to corner her, he learned just how big of a mistake that was, because this time Mia wasn't alone. She had us. She had me, and I made damn sure he never got to threaten her again. That's how I protected her. And honestly, that's how I learned to protect myself too. If you're still here listening, it actually means a lot. Stick around for more stories if you want. Your support really does help more than you know. My best friend stole the idea that was supposed to save my life. I never thought the person who would end up hurting me the most would be the same guy who used to sleep on my bedroom floor during summer breaks, eating chips at 3 a.m. while we talked about our stupid dreams. But life's funny like that. It doesn't hit you with strangers. It hits you with the people who know exactly where your weak spots are. My best friend, Evan, wasn't just a friend. He was the guy I grew up with, the closest thing I had to a brother. Our families were practically merged. His mom used to pack me extra sandwiches. My dad used to drive him to school when his piece of crap scooter wouldn't start. We were inseparable. At least that's what I thought. Everything changed last year. It started right after I lost my job. A corporate downsizing situation that came out of nowhere. I wasn't even the worst performing employee. They just needed fewer people, and my department got hit first. One minute I was sitting in a meeting room pretending to care about synergy targets. The next minute I was walking out with a cardboard box and a severance packet worth less than a month's rent. My life took a nosedive after that. Bills piled up. My parents couldn't help. My landlord gave me a polite warning that felt more like a countdown. I didn't panic, though. Not at first. Because I had something. A business idea I'd been shaping for nearly 2 years. Not a little hobby idea. Not some I want to start a cafe someday fantasy. I had a real product. A scheduling and automation tool built specifically for small home-based businesses, salons, tutors, home bakers, mechanics, gig workers, people who needed a simple, lightweight app to organize their bookings, track earnings, and send reminders. Not fancy, not corporate level, just useful, really useful. I knew the market gap. I knew the pain points. I had everything mapped out in my notebook: target audience, revenue model, UI sketches, feature sets, plan marketing, everything. But I didn't have the money to build it, not anymore. One night, while I was sitting in my room surrounded by overdue bills and cold takeout, I decided to tell someone. Just one person. Someone I trusted. I told Evan. We were sitting in his garage, the same garage we used to sneak beers in during college. He had his laptop open, something playing quietly in the background, and I said the words I never thought I'd regret. I'm building something, Ev. Something that could actually fix my life. He listened like he always did. Patient, supportive, leaning forward with that "I'm proud of you" expression he always had. I walked him through everything: the design, the niche, the monetization strategy, how it could be built with a small budget, how scalable it was. He kept nodding, kept smiling, kept asking the right questions. I felt safe. I felt understood. And because he was my best friend, I didn't hold anything back. "This is huge, man," he said, eyes bright. "You actually cracked it. People are gonna eat this up." Yeah, people were. But not because of me. Not the way I expected. 3 weeks later, I found out. I was scrolling through Instagram, half dead from stress, when I saw a sponsored post. Clean, modern logo. A description that looked painfully familiar. A tagline nearly identical to the one I'd written in my notebook. A new startup. A new product. A new scheduling and automation tool for small businesses. I froze. My chest went tight. My brain refused to process what I was seeing. Then I saw the founder's name. Created by Evan West. My best friend. My brother. My most trusted person. The guy who had hugged me when I said I might lose my apartment. The guy who said he would always have my back. He stole my idea. Not just the idea, the whole plan. The structure. The features. The business model. Everything I had built over 2 years. He didn't even bother to hide it. Same layout. Same concept. Same niche. Same branding style I described. At first I thought, no, this can't be real. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe he didn't. But when I clicked the website, I saw something that broke me. He had uploaded the exact UI sketches I drew. My drawings. My design. My wireframes. The ones I showed him in his garage. My brain went cold. My jaw locked. I remember sitting there, staring at the screen, feeling something in my chest collapse. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even get angry. I went numb. Completely, absolutely numb. Because betrayal doesn't feel like fire. It feels like ice. I called him. He didn't pick up. I texted him. He left me on read. For 3 days I tried to reach him. For 3 days he ignored me. Then, on the fourth day, he sent one message. Just one. Bro, you weren't doing anything with it. I saved it. Saved it. Saved it. Saved it. Like my idea was some abandoned puppy he rescued. Like I should thank him. Like I should be grateful. I stared at that message until my vision blurred. Then I threw my phone across the room. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew if I said anything, it wouldn't be something I could take back. And then things got worse. Much worse. The days after that message felt unreal. Like I was living in a version of my life where everything familiar had been replaced with some distorted copy. I kept refreshing his website, hoping it would disappear, hoping this was some stupid prank he'd laugh about and explain. But the site didn't disappear. It grew. He added pages. He added testimonials. He added branding videos. He added a damn newsletter. And the part that hit me the hardest? He had a team of developers, a marketing guy, a UI designer. He had built a whole operation around the thing I created while he watched me drown. I didn't know whether to throw up or punch a wall. I didn't have the money to break anything. So all I could do was sit there in my room, surrounded by bills and silence, staring at the screen like it was some kind of countdown to the end of my own life. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell anyone. How do you even explain something like that? Hey Mom, remember Evan? My best friend since I was 12? Yeah, he stole my entire business idea and now he's getting investors while I'm 3 weeks behind on rent. I didn't want the pity. I didn't want the lectures. I didn't want the pain of hearing someone else say out loud the thing I couldn't fully admit to myself. He chose himself over me. He saw me struggling and used it as an opportunity. He used my trust as leverage. It wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. One evening, around midnight, I walked to the playground near our old high school just to get out of my apartment. The air was cold enough to bite my lungs, but I needed it. I needed something real, something that didn't feel like a nightmare. I sat on the same rusty swing we used to sit on when we skipped gym class. The one where Evan told me he wanted to start a business someday. The one where I promised him I'd always be there for him. That memory felt like a knife twisting in my ribs. I sat there long enough for my fingers to go numb. Then I did something I didn't expect myself to do. I opened his website again. Not to torture myself. Not to track his progress. Not to hate him more. No, I opened it because I needed to see what he stole with my own eyes, without shock blurring the edges. And once the pain settled into a cold, heavy weight, I saw it clearly. He didn't understand the idea as deeply as I did. He copied the shell, the outline, the visible bones. But he didn't understand why it worked. He didn't understand the finer details. He didn't understand the user psychology. He didn't understand the onboarding flow I had researched for months. He built a beautiful product with no soul, a tool with no heartbeat, a tool that looked nice but didn't solve the problem in the way mine was meant to. And that's when something inside me shifted. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I wasn't broken. I wasn't defeated. Something else woke up. Call it anger. Call it pride. Call it survival instinct. All I knew was this. If he wanted to steal my idea, fine. Let him have the cheap photocopy. I would build the real thing. Not because I wanted revenge. Not even because I wanted to succeed. Because I needed my life back. Because I needed to breathe again. Because the only thing in the world that still felt like mine was the idea he tried to steal from me. The next morning, I opened my notebook again. The same notebook I once closed because I felt like a failure. This time, I opened it with shaking hands, not from fear, but from adrenaline. And I started over. I refined the product. I rewrote the core features. I fixed the onboarding. I restructured the business model. I added 2 new features he didn't know about because I hadn't told him everything. I designed an early roadmap, pivot point, a scaling model. The energy felt different, not hopeful, not naive, focused, sharp, hungry. But I still had one problem. I had no money.
No savings.
No investors, no family support, nothing. And that was when life, weirdly enough, handed me a tiny piece of luck. Not good luck, not miraculous luck, just enough. My landlord sent me a reminder for rent, again, but attached to the message was a new option for part-time building maintenance. Painting walls, cleaning the basement storage rooms, moving equipment, patching small repairs. The pay sucked, the hours sucked, the work sucked, but it was money, barely enough to survive, barely enough to eat, barely enough to buy time. But time was exactly what I needed. I took the job instantly. So while Evan was raising money from investors and filming promotional videos in coffee shops, I was scraping mold off the basement ceiling at 2 p.m. and working on my app until 4 a.m. with cheap instant noodles in one hand. And weirdly, I didn't hate it. The struggle made me sharper. The pressure made me ruthless. The betrayal made me unstoppable. But the universe wasn't done testing me. One night, 2 months after Evan launched his knockoff version of my app, I got a message on LinkedIn. A woman named Jordan Hale, a project manager from a mid-sized tech firm, wanted to discuss a potential collaboration. I stared at the message for a solid minute, heart pounding in my chest. Could be a scam. Could be nothing. Could be a mistake. But I replied. We set up a video call. And when her face appeared on the screen, the first thing she said shook the ground under me. I think your friend stole your idea. My stomach dropped. My hands went cold. My breath caught in my throat. She continued, I met him recently. He pitched this scheduling tool to us, but he couldn't answer basic questions. He wasn't the creator. He didn't understand his own product. So I did some digging, and your name came up. My chest tightened. How did you find me? I managed to ask. She smiled a little. He mentioned you once. Not fondly, by the way. Said you were jealous of him. She leaned closer to the camera. And when someone talks like that, it usually means they're hiding something. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She spoke again. I want to hear your side, the real story. And if you're willing, I want to help you build the real version. I stared at her, shocked, breathless, completely overwhelmed. Jordan didn't know it yet, but she had just opened the door to the moment that would change everything. Not just for me, but for Evan too. Because while he was busy playing CEO with something he stole, I was about to build the thing he never could. I didn't answer Jordan right away. Not because I didn't believe her. Everything in her voice felt genuine. But because I suddenly felt that old fear creeping in. What if I screwed this up? What if she realized I was just some burned-out guy living off instant noodles and painting basement walls to survive? What if she saw the cracks Evan took advantage of? But then I thought about him calling me jealous. About him pitching my dream like it belonged to him. About him smiling in photos with investors while I scrubbed rust-off water pipes at midnight. A fire lit in my chest. I'll tell you everything, I said quietly, and I'll show you my real version. She nodded, almost like she had been waiting for those words. Good, she said, because honestly, his product isn't going anywhere. And if we're going to build this right, we need you, not him. It hit me so hard I almost forgot how to breathe. No one had said they needed me in a long time. I spent the next 2 hours telling her everything. The concept, the research, the psychological flow behind it, the specific problems it solved. Not in some pitchy, over-rehearsed way. Just raw truth. I even told her how Evan took screenshots of my notebook without asking. How he pretended he was helping while he was really stealing. How he launched before I did. Jordan listened like every word mattered. When I finished, she didn't look unsure. She didn't look hesitant. She didn't look like she had doubts. She looked furious. With respect, she said, your friend is an idiot. He stole a product he didn't understand. You can't fake innovation. You can't fake insight. You can't fake obsession. He has the shell, but you have the architecture. Her conviction felt so real it made my throat tighten. Then she dropped the biggest bomb of all. I want to put you in touch with someone. A real investor. Someone who doesn't care about the shiny surface. Someone who cares about functionality and innovation. Someone who will actually listen. My heart went into overdrive. An investor? For me? Now? I wanted to say yes instantly, but reality hit me again. My prototype isn't ready, I admitted. It's close, but not presentable. Then you get it done, she said calmly. And when it's ready, I'll be there. That night, after the call ended, I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time. My room was still the same depressing box it had been all year, but for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like a dead end. It felt like a messy starting point. So I pulled out my laptop. I brewed the strongest instant coffee I could make. And I worked. I rewrote code. I tested features. I redesigned the UI. I polished everything I had ignored during my depressive fog. I slept maybe 3 hours a night. And weirdly, I didn't feel tired. Because every line of code, every screen, every diagram felt like reclaiming something that was stolen from me. Piece by piece, bit by bit, breath by breath. 3 weeks later, my prototype was ready. Not perfect, but real, functional.
Mine.
Jordan reviewed it first. We spent hours refining things together. She pushed me in ways I hadn't been pushed in years. Not cruelly, but with this fierce belief that I could do better, that I deserved to build something better. Then came the investor call. I had no fancy clothes, no slick background, no polished speech. Just a hoodie, a laptop, and an idea built from heartache and stubbornness. To my shock, the investor loved it. Not the surface, not the aesthetics, not the branding. He loved the logic, the execution, the functionality, the vision. At the end of the call, he said, "I don't usually say this, but I think you're the real founder. And I think someone else tried to beat you to the punch." I didn't even need to hear Evan's name. I already knew he must have been feeling the pressure. His user numbers weren't growing, his retention was garbage, and the cracks in his shallow understanding were showing. While I was getting stronger, he was getting exposed. 2 months later, things became official. I got funding. I got a junior team. I got to build the product the right way. My launch was quiet.
No flashy videos.
No fake hype. Just a soft, steady release. But then something unexpected happened. Users started switching from Evan's copycat version to mine. Slowly at first, then quickly, then all at once. People posted reviews saying things like, "This is how it should have been built from the start." It's like the original idea finally came to life. This version actually works. And within 6 months, Evan's knockoff was basically dead. He made one last desperate attempt at revival, some big discount promo. But it didn't work, because discounts couldn't fix the fact that he had hollowed out an idea he never understood and tried to wear it like a costume. You can't fake authenticity. Not forever. Then one night I got a message request from him. Just his name popping up froze me. I stared at the notification for a solid 30 seconds before opening it. "Congrats on your launch. Looks like it's going well. Didn't expect that. Maybe we should talk." Talk? Talk? I almost laughed. After months of betrayal, silence, and lies. After he stole my work, claimed I was jealous, and used me as a stepping stone. Now that everything had fallen apart for him, now he wanted to talk? No. I deleted the message. Not out of anger, out of closure. Because I didn't need revenge anymore. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need the past. I had something better. I had my life back. And before I closed my laptop for the night, I whispered something out loud. Not to him, but to myself. "You tried to kill my dream, and you ended up feeding it." I shut the lid, and for the first time in years, I slept without fear. Subscribe if you like these long, real, emotional stories. It genuinely keeps me going and helps me make more of them.